Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, now I can. Hold on,
You
let
look
me
insanely professional right now.
what's that?
I said you
I
look
look perfect.
as usual. It's
Oh, I wish I could show you. Here, look. Can you see the lights?
yeah.
It's actually like super dark in here right now. How are you?
Great, how are you?
Good. You're recording already.
Yeah, I mean, I just like do automatic record, but
Okay.
I will edit this. We don't have to use it either, but we could just chat and
Yeah, that's
yeah,
fine.
go
Well,
ahead.
first, like, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? Are
Yeah.
you back in a lot?
Yeah, I come in every day.
Okay.
So I just do all my sessions in here. So I'm doing like 10% in person and then the rest are all virtual. So I'm starting to get like a little, like I had 2 PT evals and I was like, oh, like I remember how much I missed it.
Right.
And I was like, John, like it felt so good. I'm like to like just be in that mode of like evaluation and
Right.
yeah, so it hasn't been many though.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think I've had two, but I actually had one in person and then I had two virtual.
Okay.
Um, and actually, I've like enjoyed the virtual stuff because it's made me have to like think a little differently about how to do an eval
Yeah.
and also to use the home exercise program a little bit better, where
Right.
like make that something that you're sharing and kind of almost like the True Coach model, but I've just been using like Google Sheets and just trying to keep
Okay.
people like interested in coming back that way, knowing
Right.
that it might be hard to have it be like a regular thing.
Right. Now, are they like more fitness people or PT?
I mean, I have majority fitness just from those
Fitness.
are the people that have carried over, but
Yep.
the newer ones were PT oriented
Okay.
at least. I mean,
Okay.
they had complaints at first, and then if sometimes that quickly turns into like, okay, you could probably make this more about fitness than anything.
Mhm.
Because some people will just ask me about something they've had in the past, but they haven't had in a while, and it's just
Yeah.
like they're just like afraid to get back, and then it's just like, well, we just need like a safe fitness routine, and some things turn into that. But I mean, and that's most of my clientele now is just like my longer term personal training clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what I've learned is like how like most of the people, oh my God, it's so creepy around here. It's like so dark and stormy. Sorry. It just looks like a movie.
Mhm.
But I've noticed that like all my old like movement coaching clients and nutrition clients, like those are the ones that kind of like stuck with me through the quarantine.
Uh,
I'm like
yeah,
so grateful for.
yeah,
So yeah, so it's been good. Like it reminded me like how important, that's what like one of your questions I know, but like
yeah.
how important building is.
Yeah, certainly. And like, yeah, it's been like right off the bat, I felt like my clients really like helped me out. And then it made me sort of be able to relax a little bit and change how I would do things. Like I didn't know what I was going to do
Right.
early on. So as soon as I felt like I had enough people on Zoom, then I
Mhm.
could kind of relax a little bit and I didn't have to force things back or
Right.
try to, and so I had a couple of people that were just doing the Zoom and were just interested in starting back. And that's sort of where I'm at now, but I don't have a lot back in, but I am going in 3 days a week just to do Zooms and to meet like one or two people.
Okay.
And it's been nice to just get out of, I'm in my basement here, which is,
Oh, that's your basement?
yeah, I'm glad we had this
Oh,
option
nice.
because
Yeah,
we
I
weren't
didn't
using
even
it
like
like this.
put that together. I was actually thinking it was one of your PT offices. So
Yeah, like this had like a lot of the kids' toys in it, and we just moved it out. And before we moved here, I think it was a bedroom for somebody. Like it's our downstairs, and it's finished, and there's a kitchen and everything in there. But like this is like its own sectioned off place. So it's been
yeah,
great. But it at first it was awesome because I was like, oh, look at how I can use my house, and like I was excited about it. Now it's like I want to get into more space. So it's just
right.
nice being back in the gym, even if I'm not seeing people.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. It works. It works.
Yeah. So, what's going on with like what you're doing with mindfulness? I've seen you post about it, but I don't know the deets.
Yeah, so I'm finishing up my program. So I finished all of like the didactic portion, and then I'm ready to start my research project, which it just got approved, which is
Nice.
huge. I don't have enough people yet, but hopefully soon. And then I've been doing like these mindfulness sessions for the community that have been like so good for me and for everybody that are coming. So I typically have about 15 or so on average every week, and they're just a half hour. But it's been so, like I said, it's kind of nice for me because I'm preparing for them, and I'll do like a short meditation, just a check in, and then I'll do a topic of, so I'll kind of research just whatever seems appropriate at the time. Like I've done all different things, judgment and
Oh, cool. I love that.
right effort, and just all different
Right.
aspects. And then I'll do like a little bit of a longer meditation, like 10 minutes. Then I have everybody reflect on it in their journal because it's just a webinar. So I'll just say, I'll kind of give them some guidance. So just write down what emotions you had, what thoughts came up for you, what physical sensations you had. And then I'll do like one little suggestion for an informal practice for the week. So it's been so fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Like I kind of want to continue doing them. I'm just trying to figure out, like I don't want to go from not charging to charging, so I'm not really sure.
Right. Yeah, it's a slippery slope with mindfulness, I think, because it just has such a, it's such a connotation that you're just trying to help, and there's the giving and the compassion that's underlying it, where it's like it almost seems like it can't be part of business, but it has to be. It's right. It's just like that'd be like saying what we don't do for people physically isn't part of business. So
I know, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Like my mom, because my mom comes to them, and my mom is so funny because she's a very stressed person. I mean, it's just the way she's been her whole life.
Right.
So it was interesting to watch her evolution of coming to them. So I've probably done, I think 12, like 13 of them, I think. And so initially she was the person that said, I don't think I'm good at it, and then, like just gently, like, Mom, it's not about good or bad. It's just about paying attention. And just all of that. And then, but I said, just keep paying attention, just see what happens, see what comes up for you. And then she sent me an email after one session and she said, I think I'm getting it.
Nice.
And I was like, oh my God, like it made me so happy because she was a tough one,
Yeah. And I've had like a similar thing with my mom, and she has her own spiritual practice, and I have my mindfulness practice, but it is now like that mindfulness has really been ingrained in her practice a lot more. I mean, and I don't know how much it's from me or not, but I know like it's just cool to see how that's blended over the years. And now she'll just send me texts and messages about stuff she's reading about mindfulness. So we have like this back and forth, although we have like different places where we come from with our spiritual practice. It's like, that's becoming more of a common thread between us. And
that's so cool.
And that's one of the things that I've always like found like about mindfulness is it doesn't have to be like linked to any type of specific spiritual practice. It's like, it's so much deeper than that. It's almost like a fundamental more than it is anything super specific.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what my professor would say. Like it's like if anything, like we learn more about American Buddhism. So so if we were going to give it a name, really it's just a way of being, and it's not like, so, he was just exposing us to a lot of different philosophies, things like that, but not the classic Zen Buddhism where you have to be in a meditative seat and, posture and things like that. And I think once people realize that it doesn't have to be that way and there's not all these like rules and, rigidity around it, I think people are like, oh, like I can practice, like I can sit in a chair.
It's interesting. Like when I first started getting into meditation, I started reading about Tibetan Buddhism. I guess that was like my first introduction to it, just through like random books. And I remember like them being very like powerful when I first read them. And I went back like several years later and like tried to read the books that like kind of got me into the practice. and they had like a totally different meaning. Like I wasn't seeing all of the ritualism and like the Buddhism in it at first. I think just the common tenets that were there, like they're there no matter if they're kind of shrouded in ritual and things like that. But it can be hard to dig through that sometimes. And I remember going back, and it was just like I didn't get as much out of it the second time, like because I was seeing all the ritual that for some reason I didn't see the first time, because I think just those common lessons, those common fundamentals were just so powerful that it's just like, oh, like this just makes a lot of sense.
Right. That's actually a really interesting point, because now I'm probably like the opposite. So I'm kind of like reading or listening more to like more of the Zen or Tibetan Buddhism. And so it's interesting to see the really significant differences, you know, of kind of this, like almost like this perfectionism and enlightenment,
right,
versus just practicing and paying attention and noticing your like day-to-day moments in life. So it's a very sharp contrast, but I also really like it and appreciate, you know what I mean? Because I kind of feel that that's originally where it like stemmed from. So it's
exactly. And I think like going back and seeing some of the ritualism in it, like helped me also maybe find some common threads to some of the values of like more Western spiritual practices, where there are these like common foundations that you can find, and they can just be so deep and meaningful.
Yeah.
And it can get lost in the stuff that doesn't seem meaningful, or it just doesn't resonate with you. But I think even like for at first, when I just thought like Buddhism was this, it just made a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't seeing all of the other like rituals that I would have maybe turned me off to other religions. But now it's like, okay, it's in all of these practices in different ways, right? So you have to kind of take them all for what they're worth. And it almost helped me being less judgmental of some other things I was judgmental of in the past.
Right.
Because it was like this thing that I was seeing totally differently, and it just like fell apart for me.
Right. Yeah. And so it's such an awesome, like, I feel like personally it was personally and professionally, but personally best decision I ever made to do that program. And because I feel like I meditated before, but I never had a meditation teacher. Not that you need a meditation teacher, but I think that I am the person, like, you know me enough by now, like I like guidance and I like coaching, and so I think I was just sort of trying to work through my own journey and probably being judgmental of myself a little bit. Like not that I would get like mad if I couldn't, you know, settle my mind as much, but I like a lot of times like what I learned was I would just fall asleep. And so that was the thing that like would bug me. And even towards the beginning of the program, like I was meditating at night and I would fall asleep. And so my teacher finally said, he's like, well, because I was journaling every day, and I said like I was kind of getting frustrated. I was like, the first part of meditation was great, then I fell asleep. He's like, well, it's just information that your body probably isn't used to just totally relaxing and being alert and relaxed at the same time. And it was just like this aha moment. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's been a lot of like, you know, really, it's been an awesome journey.
Awesome.
Liz.
Yeah, absolutely. What will you finish with, like when you're done with your research? Like,
so it'll be the program it's a graduate certificate in applied mindfulness.
Okay.
And then the research project, if I get enough people, my goal would be to try to publish it if it all went well. But I really would need, if coronavirus didn't happen, I think I was on pace to do it. I had a ton of interest, like 65 women were interested in it. And I'm doing it on postpartum moms that like to basically bring mindful awareness and emotional regulation to their life and to their parenting.
Awesome.
So so if I do get like at least 20 people, I think I could at least submit for publishing.
Cool.
Which would be really awesome. I mean, not that I need to, but it would be cool to do actually.
Well, no, I mean, I think the more the more you get published, the better. And we've talked about integration all the time, about like how I mean, there's certainly research being done about mindfulness, but how many people can integrate mindfulness and movement and things like that really well. So like the deeper you go into it, it's good for us that, you know, that,
right.
that you'll have that kind of, you have your foot in each door pretty much. And right. Like
yeah.
And I think I look forward to your journey there, because it's certainly like really an important part of my life in many ways, like mindfulness and all that. Yeah. And, you know, it's so powerful for how it could lead behavior and like everything you do, but it is hard to get people to even understand like what you find value in. That's what I mean, I know what I find value in, but it's hard to help other people understand what that value is and how to find it themselves.
I know. And that's been the really cool thing in some ways about doing the webinar format, which isn't classic for a mindfulness group, clearly. Right. What it's forced me to do is sort of be able to explain concepts and make people feel okay with whatever's happening. You know, like, so it's kind of like I'm almost, because I'm doing the practice while they're doing the practice. So I'll say, you know, afterwards, like, it's, you know, when you go to write your experience, it's okay if it was a negative experience. It's okay if you felt anxious. It's okay if you, like, some sadness came up for you. Like, I'll kind of each time try to acknowledge things like that. And then each time try to reinforce the concepts of mindfulness. Like, you know, it's just noticing. It doesn't matter what happens, just notice it. You know, so it's kind of been good in some ways. Although I haven't been able to develop the inquiry which I think is really challenging, of like, Chris, what was your experience like? That part I need work with. But
yeah. One of the things that I've found to be the most beneficial about being like able to be one-on-one for longer with the same people is like that the trust gets developed where you can start having those conversations. And but it does have to be like a gradual, patient thing, right?
Gradual.
And that's certainly something I've learned, but you don't necessarily have the opportunity to ever get to that relationship in a typical like physical therapy clinic setting. It would feel very difficult to do that. Now, I think if somebody knows that that's what you specialize in and they're seeking that out, then that becomes a different thing. So I think that's also where this could be a huge benefit, you know, for seeing like a physical therapist that's also like a specialist in mindfulness, and just how they can be linked. But if people are seeking you out for that, then I think that could be huge, right? I think you could do a lot for us.
All right, Chris, I'll work on it. I'll work on it.
But I do think like we could use more of that in our field, and having an extra certification or an extra like education that shows like that you specialize in that, I think is necessary in many ways, because otherwise it just becomes a conversation. Yeah. And you certainly can get some people who are skeptical of like, you know, where your information is coming from and things like that, or they wouldn't be seeking you out for that specific thing. Yeah. And then that makes it hard to have anyone follow through with it.
I know. I totally think, and I think our industry is very much like that. Like, you almost have to have, in some respects, like the credential to prove that, which is kind of silly, and that's not why I did it. It was really that I wanted to kind of dive in 100%, and sort of like just personally and professionally. And my husband was kind of like, why are you doing like a whole graduate program? I see so much value in it, and I think that it will help my practice tremendously. And it's kind of interesting how all this happened, like with COVID. And I literally, like, I went from, I did one workshop, I think in January, like in person, or 2 workshops in January, and then started doing all the mindfulness sessions in March. And then I ended up doing, oh my gosh, like 10 or 12, I think, sessions for companies on like managing stress and resilience and mindfulness and things like that. So it was totally like worth it already.
Right. Absolutely.
I think it is something that like people are more open to. I just think that people don't necessarily know a lot about it.
This is going to be part of the next tier of continuing ed for us too, is just to get into what feels like almost other scopes, but it is totally our scope if we're dealing with anybody that's in pain. And that becomes, like, especially anything that's chronic, right? Just the idea of like a chronic condition will need some of this mindfulness. And if that's part of what we're working with, then we have to understand it well.
Right.
Very cool. Yeah. What else have you been doing? Like you're always learning new stuff. Like other than the mindfulness stuff, like anything else that you're doing differently, like within the last year that you weren't doing before?
I would say the biggest thing is I'm working on my functional medicine certification. So I'm not quite halfway through. So I have three more courses, and then I have like case study, and then there's an exam. So probably not for another couple years will I be finished. But I'm trying to take one course and then apply it for almost the whole year.
Okay.
Because so much, and I just feel like, like this year I'm going to take the hormone course, but I took like a short hormone course. I'm going to take a long one, and I'm trying to just work on hormones.
All right.
So like last year it was more like the energy system. So it was a lot of like chronic pain and, what would you do for like food recommendations and just thinking about mitochondria and like all of that. So I'm trying to just make sure that I really understand the concepts. And even when I feel like I do, I feel like I have so much more to learn.
Okay. So does that give you the ability to do anything beyond your current scope now, or is it just like you just gather more well-rounded information?
No, it definitely, it's totally changed my practice. Like if I think about, I was kind of thinking about when I was at Kinetic, and I was working just as an outpatient PT. Now, even though I was a dietitian, and I've always had a holistic approach. So it's never like I didn't think about other aspects of health or address them. But if I think about then versus where I am now, like as soon as someone comes into me and let's say they've had pain for a while, and then I do this really extensive intake and I realize they have bloating, they have digestive issues, and they might have like mold toxicity. Like today I had a guy that like has shortness of breath, and all his lung tests were fine, and he like can't even lay down without feeling like he's drowning. And I was like, this is not okay. And then we start talking. And sure enough, he's got a ton of mold in his basement. And I was like, that could be a huge factor. So it's more like, I feel like I'm investigating their health and trying to figure out like, I don't want to say root cause, but just trying to figure out what are the primary drivers of them not feeling well.
Right. And has that opened you up to like a different network then of individuals that you're collaborating with?
Yes, because I definitely have to refer out, and I'm learning, like right now, I actually just signed up with this company called Your Lab Work. So now I can suggest labs to people, whether or not they want to do it through their insurance. Obviously they couldn't do that, but that's what I'm trying to really work on too, is getting the right testing for people without over testing, and because me personally being in the functional medicine as a patient world, I feel like it was overwhelming, and I feel like it was like so much like, okay, do this test, this test, this test. So I'm trying to really like do great history taking to figure out what is it that they really need. Like, what is it that we need to figure out, before I send them for a million tests.
Right. Yeah, I think that's super important.
I think so too.
Absolutely. What's your schedule look like today? Do you got more clients?
I have one presentation and one more client, and that's it.
Nice. Are you working pretty much like a full schedule, like with virtual and in person?
Yes, I'm definitely. So I'm kind of doing like just under 30 a week, and it's been pretty steady like the whole time. I had like 2 weeks when it first happened that I was a little bit lower, but it's been pretty steady. Now I was getting a little nervous because, like I said, I haven't had a lot of new people, so I'm kind of like, okay, let's get some like fresh blood.
Right. Have you had anything that you've had to like adapt on the fly, or is it just other than just getting people to do virtual sessions?
So I think the biggest things that I was trying to think about what I've done, because I feel like it's been totally different. I mean, I guess the obvious is just switching to Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
I did do what was reach out to all of, not all, but a lot of my old clients and just say like, hey, how are you doing? Just checking in to see how you're doing during this time. And just about all of them scheduled. So like it made me realize how important relationships are and how important just, like what we do it is just in their lives, their
Right.
health, their well-being. So that was kind of a big thing that I've been trying to be consistent with. But then I think the other thing is I've just done so much more video work. So I've done a couple like podcasts, but then I've done like videos for other people. I've been doing like webinars for companies, which has been great. So just kind of, I feel like a lot of video production. Doing my group class on Zoom and then recording that, sending that out. So just a lot of video.
So overall, do you feel like there's been a silver lining with this whole thing? Like, has it made you have to do things that you wish you would have done before, or you're glad that you got a jump start into doing?
Absolutely. I feel like kind of from two different aspects. One is I feel like I'm glad I was already comfortable with doing online work and comfortable with video before this happened because I think it would have been like really overwhelming. So that was good. But then with that said, the silver lining, I feel like now I've realized that this can be a huge part of my practice. And, that if people didn't want to come in for not related to necessarily Corona, but maybe it was a scheduling conflict or something like that. Like I know I can have this option and hopefully expand beyond.
Right.
So
That's kind of where I'm at too. It's just like,
that's what I was going to ask.
I hope stuff like continues with the Zoom, because I've been training people that are like, my sister lives in Fort Lauderdale, and like this is absolutely one of the best parts of this quarantine has been I've been seeing her 3 to 4 times a week now on Zoom, and we always had like a good relationship, but we've been distant, and she's 8 years younger than me, so this has been like such an opportunity for our relationship to build.
That's awesome.
But I am in many ways treating her like a trainer-client relationship, because I think it's one, time-wise, like I can't be on the phone with her all the time, so we just have to like kind of have sessions for 30 minutes. But it's like it really means a lot to me, and it just keeps building, and there's no reason that it has to end. No reason it only had to start with the quarantine either. So I started to realize like some of these distance relationships are there. And you can use your skill, or it could just be an opportunity to talk to someone that you haven't talked to in a while. But I'm also seeing with some of my clients, their children who are distant. I'm able to work with them, and they've talked to me about it for a while, but they're distant. It's like, well, let's do a Zoom session and see how it works. You know what I mean? And it works better than I've been anticipating.
That's awesome. And are you assessing them and then developing their program?
Yeah, for the most part. And like my assessments have been try to find the lowest hanging fruit on the virtual stuff, right? And I think like I tend to do that anyway in person. Before I put my hands on people, it's just like if I can see something that's very obvious, that takes some time anyway, like to get to some fundamental movement thing, and then I might use hands-on to guide it. But it has to be something that's felt kinesthetically by the person eventually. So I just need to use different, like I don't have the option of the hands, but the concept and the assessment usually is the same. So I might not assess like a big amount of things. I might just see like, this is obviously a limitation there. So like, that's where we're going to have to be for this first week or two. Here's the couple exercises I want you to work on. And that also seemed to be helpful, because I can tend to add on too much too quick for some people. And when it's someone that's your client that you're seeing like in a personal training setting a couple times a week, that's not as big of an issue. But when it becomes somebody who's got like stuff from a physical therapy standpoint, I think that can become overwhelming. Like we haven't had time for one thing to actually get better before we've gone on to a new concept.
Right.
So having to be a little bit more simplified, and then also writing it down on like a sheet that I'm sharing with somebody helps me look at it and say, okay, like I'm going to take this one out before I add this one back on. Let me know how this goes. Write on it, edit right on it if you are doing it or not. So it adds some accountability there if that's what the client is looking for. But it's definitely been helpful for me to just try to make things a little bit more simplified. I have an idea of where I want to go later, but I can't, you can't do it all at once.
Right.
So I think the virtual setting does a lot of good because it almost helps you like not overwhelm people. Right.
right. When they have like the list of 30 exercises, like, which ones are important here?
Right.
That's awesome though. That's good. So you're seeing like people from all over the country, right?
Yeah, but not too often. It's just that you can, it opens that opportunity. And when I get people that like ask me questions, like former like interns that I've had and things like that, instead of doing just like trying to write a weak email response, like maybe I'll do a Zoom there, or I'll do a video answering their question that's more like in a Zoom format. But it definitely opened my eyes to thinking about how to create content that's ultimately educational, because I mean, that's what I feel passionate about. I know that's what you feel passionate about, is like creating educational content. More than about like thinking of it as like a healing or curing process. It's like we want to educate people so that they can help themselves.
Right.
And I think you can see how many opportunities there are to do that maybe we weren't, hitting virtually that we can hit.
Absolutely. That you didn't really think about or have to do it. Like, I totally agree. I feel like there's definitely a lot more opportunity that I see now having done. I'm like, okay, like this could work. Like, actually, I think I'm going to do, I was planning this before COVID, but I didn't have anything like actually on paper, but I'm planning to do a subscription site. I just don't know exactly how it's going to unfold, but I'm kind of thinking like movement, like a men's health, women's health, like sect membership, and then having like, nutrition, it might be optional. Like it might be like based on like what they choose. Like same thing with the mindfulness. Like they might not choose that, but they can. And then the move. So like I think that's the way I'm going to set it up. I'm just trying to figure out like I've kind of done the research like to figure out how to do it.
Right.
I need to know what to do.
What I started doing, because my son's class is Google Classroom. And I just started like playing around on it. I'm like, I use Google Sheets and Google Docs all the time. And I'm just like, this is such a natural extension of that, but it makes like your content have like a home that can be well organized. And everything that I did with my book, like can easily be put into an outline of something I've wanted to do for a while, which was create like a mentorship based off of the idea of the optimal instrument, like all of those movements within that EPTA kind of sponsored instrument, which just basically breaks down functional movement from in an objective way. Like, so I feel like there's a need for that, but to do it kind of movement by movement.
Yeah.
So what I've been playing around with is just little by little, like a half hour a day, or, on the weekends, I'll take a little bit longer, is just doing presentations that I'm putting in this Google Classroom. And then eventually that can become something you share. I'd have to look deeper into that when the time comes. But instead of like trying to write another book or something like that, like taking, because I did put a lot of my model into the book that I can just kind of copy and paste into PowerPoints and things like that. And then you can easily add like what we're doing right now, like some type of face-to-face lecture, or just I can do like superimpose like a PowerPoint into a lecture, and that can all be added. But it just gives like, I guess all of the stuff that I've been trying to make a home. So and that's been helpful. I don't know if that'll be where everything lands eventually, but that's where I'm putting it right now.
That's awesome.
Because it helps me think along those lines. Like I'm a teacher that's creating a lesson plan, and that's ultimately like what I want to do as my next step. And at the very least, if that doesn't become a product, that becomes structure for my clients right now. Where it's like, okay, I've been researching this. but then I'm also looking at like how this, like maybe a certain program fits into what I'm talking about based on a movement. And then I can easily just change that to a Google Sheet that could be like a template, and things like that. So.
That's awesome.
But it's very haphazard right now.
It's gonna be your new book.
I don't know how the book is. It's done. It's out there. But there's a lot in there. So whether that ever like sells or not, it like I put a lot into that I can just kind of take out and copy and paste into other things. So a lot of work has been done, and I'll use that for other models, maybe to more specific audiences, because I don't think my book had a specific audience. It was just like out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's good to just have a place like for content. I feel like my content is everywhere right now. But it's all right.
Do you have any? I know you have a lot of times like students that'll be helping you out. Do you have anyone like helping to put your content in different places for you?
No, well, I have one old intern that does some work for me, and she basically, so when I do my my weekly video, then she takes the video and she transcribes it like with an app, and then she cleans it up for my first draft, which seems really simple, but it's huge because that's so long. So that's really the only thing, but I feel like I spend a lot of time like editing, and I feel like that's why I said like the video production. I'm like, what do I even do at the end of the week? But I feel like it's a lot of video stuff. Right. And I'm trying to get better at it. I've been taking this YouTube course, and so I'm trying to work slowly on developing my YouTube channel. So I did more than double my subscribers. So that was exciting.
I just subscribed to it.
Oh, you did? Thanks. Thanks. Good. Yes, 108.
What I'm seeing now, and I don't know if this is just by coincidence because we're quarantined now, but I used to listen to a lot more stuff via audio. So even like the YouTube stuff I would listen to, I had YouTube Red. I would download it and sort of listen to it like a podcast. Okay. But now I've seen, like, at least in our field, some people who are just really up in their game and their YouTube channel. And I think for a while I was like trying to put more stuff on Facebook and Instagram, and just thinking, because that's where you see things more frequently, right? If you're looking at that on a more regular basis. But the way I've been watching YouTube a lot lately is like just working out or something, having like some person's content go from like one episode to the next. Yeah. And start watching it that way, you're like, oh, like I should put a little bit more work into mine and things like that.
Yeah. So, it's a lot. Like this course is amazing. I'm happy to share anything with you, but it's amazing. But I will say it's a lot of work to even just setting up your channel. And I don't even have it. Mine's definitely not 100%, but even just things like that, like setting it up and making sure you have all the right programs linked to it. There's just like so many details. And then the goal is to do like content research every week, every time you're going to post a video. So like really figuring out like what are people searching, and so many like factors that go into it. So I'm kind of like, I'm inching along. I mean, I'm only done probably 25% of the course, but I've also, like I said, increased my subscribers. Not they're low, but still, it's all because of the course, because otherwise I was not moving very far.
My 7-year-old is like, he loves YouTube, and he watches like a lot of these gamers, these video gamers that have like millions of subscribers. And he started seeing a couple of my videos on there, because on Apple TV, like it's easier to see, like if I was watching something and mine pops up, he's like, oh, Daddy, that's you. And then he asked me like how many subscribers I had. And I thought I was going to like impress him a little bit. I said like, oh, like 450. He's like, oh, that's actually...
You have 450?
I do, but it's like he goes to me.
That's awesome.
Oh, Daddy, that's actually not a lot. And it was just like, at first it was almost like he thought I was going to say something higher, so he was ready to say, oh, that's awesome. But then he was like, oh, that's actually not a lot.
I think that's amazing. That's awesome.
It's like, that's something I've done for a while, but I haven't really like, I've put videos up for a while. So I have a lot of videos on there. But I haven't really like taken too serious like the content of it. Right. And I do have now. I don't know if you've ever met Corey Richards, who he's like, I don't call him. He works for me as like an aide, but he's awesome. He's like, he's going to PT school, and I've just had him sort of make everything look a little bit nicer, like with thumbnails and things like that. And I think that's really helping, but it also helps me have a better schedule. So like if I just do something on like my phone, I do have to eventually edit it, but like I have already things on there that aren't up yet. So it's on a better schedule now than it was before. Instead of feeling like I'm always trying to like actually make the content, I have like a backlog of content that I was just like making and putting right up, right? Like I had no schedule for it before. And now I have like a little bit more of a schedule, and because he's helping me with that, which is, I need to learn how to use him better, but he's been very helpful so far just in that.
That's awesome. Like that's awesome. And I feel like that's what I need is like some help with it. Like, you know, I was thinking about how long it takes me to do a video every week. And I was like, okay, so it takes me an hour typically to just prepare for it. Then it takes me like, I mean, not quite an hour, but like just by the time I'm like cutting and doing, I'd say I have to allot for an hour to film it. And then it takes me an hour to edit it. And then it takes me an hour to post it everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's 4 hours for one video.
Yeah. I mean, certainly the posting it everywhere, like that would be an easy thing for like an assistant to help you.
But what's weird though, Chris, is it's like, it's on my, I guess I just I think that's why I always have a hard time with that kind of stuff, like logistics. Like it's on my phone and then I'm kind of like, well, how would I don't even know how I would have somebody, unless they were like with me in the office, like how would I have them post it?
I would just edit it. Like editing has to be done by me, you know, at least like in my own house, or at least to get it to the point where I want it to sound the way I want it to sound. But once I get it up onto YouTube as an unlisted video, like Corey has all my accounts. So I just give him like, all right, once this is up unlisted, then before it goes to be public, you know, make the thumbnail and then put it on a schedule. And then he's also, you know, like getting it out.
And he'll download it from YouTube.
Yeah. And at first I was like, okay, do you want to take it and like actually take the video and put it on Facebook? But and I used to do that before because it actually looks bigger. You don't see it as like, okay, this is coming from YouTube. But now that he's putting the thumbnails on there, I actually like it being shared from YouTube, because you lose those thumbnails, which is like the little wording that says what the video is about.
Yeah.
If you have it as just like your Facebook video, and I have to do more analytics on that, but I like the way it looks, and it's been easier to have him do that. And I said like we would try that for a little while, but he's able to do that to Instagram too on like some the longer feed videos.
Yep.
So he just has all my accounts.
So that may be a good way to outsource it. So it's like if I edit it and get it up to YouTube, then have somebody else get it all out and ready.
Right. Yeah, that's the first thing I do but I don't even do it like, other than it just being cropped the way I wanted and the sound to be the way I wanted, which I'm still figuring out, but like what I would be happy with, you know, and not having him to edit that, I just put it on as unlisted, but then he still can go on to YouTube and like add the thumbnails, which look a little different. If he like, I don't really tell him to look to crop it because I've already done that, but he could crop it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you can also put it in like what playlist I want it to be in. Cause like my YouTube channel is like playlists, which I'm trying to like build up that idea of like, you know, if you go to my YouTube channel, like the playlist actually like means something, that they're like categories of, you know, different concepts that then I can also build up more specific ideas of content. So I have like all of these playlist labels, but some of them like don't have a lot of videos in them, but that my goal is to sort of build them up because it gives me like a categorization of how I want to build content.
That's awesome. That was like super helpful. Because I'm like, now here's one more question. What do you edit on? Like, what do you
right now I just use iMovie, but like I probably should get something better than that. But I've used iMovie for as long as I've had a YouTube channel because
and just on your phone, you just use it on your phone.
Most of the time I do it on my computer, but sometimes I do it on the phone. The computer definitely offers like more options for me, like from a standpoint of if I want to like crop the screen depending on what the video is and like just show me closer. I can't really do that on my phone on iMovie. I can do the volume. I can just turn the volume up so that the clip just sounds louder, which isn't always a good thing, but sometimes it is if I didn't, like, I'm starting to use microphones now. If I'm like back off from the camera, like I'm not using it for something like this, but if I'm anywhere back from the camera, I'm starting to use a microphone. But I wasn't before, and I was just like turning up the volume, and then you can go on to iMovie, and there's a lot more settings for sound on the actual desktop than there is on the.
But you have a Mac though.
Yeah, I have a Mac.
Right. So I don't have a Mac, and I've tried like a couple different softwares. One that's supposed to be just like iMovie, and I don't know what happened, but it was didn't seem to be working well. Probably user error.
Right.
But now, this is a dumb question too, but do you record it on your phone?
Yeah, a lot of times I do. For the most part, because it's the best camera I have right now.
And then do you send it to, like, how do you send it to your computer?
It usually airdrops because it's just everything is synced, but I'm trying to think of a way if you couldn't do that.
Because if I don't do that, that takes forever. So I normally Google photo it and then send the link, but it's like that takes forever to download.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have much insight on that because I've always just had the syncing of the Apple's stuff. But sometimes that even gets annoying. But it's usually like I just need to really restart my computer. I have in the past just made like a unlisted YouTube video, like before I even edit it, and then you can kind of download from the unlisted YouTube video, and then it gets back. It's like it's an extra step, but I don't know if that's longer or not.
Right. I think right now that is definitely my next goal, but I just like right now I have one app that seems to be the easiest. It's called Splice. I don't know if you've ever used that.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's pretty good. I mean, you can't do a lot, but it's like enough for me to edit the clips, and like I could put my handle on it.
Right.
I can put like title slides and stuff like that. So it's not like super fancy, but it's quick because it's like on my phone, and I'm like, I feel like that's the quickest way for me to edit right now. But I would like to be able to get better at doing them on a program.
Right.
But
and I think I need to look at new programs. I definitely do. It's just like I was for a while just taking stuff right from my phone, and I hadn't put something on YouTube in a little while. Like I was doing everything like just right to Facebook and Instagram. And I wasn't even thinking about really editing that much other than what the phone allows you to do, which is like crop it. And sometimes you could crop it to make it like that you look bigger, but you can also crop it so like if you don't see you like touching the camera to start it and end it. But other than that, I wasn't really doing much else. And that also was limiting like the things that I wanted to even do with content. But the quarantine's like made me get back into that mindset. One, because I'm watching other people that are similar to what we do, doing good stuff. And I feel like we could be doing similar things. And just saying, oh, okay, like that YouTube might be the best place for that content then, as opposed to trying to create like something from scratch, like a podcast or something like that, which you can then have. And then I'm seeing some of these people take their YouTube content and then turn it into a podcast. And it ends up being the same thing. So it's like, oh, okay, like that gives me more ideas, because it does become like, how much time do you have, right? Like, we're all limited there, and
patience too.
And patience, and then it's like I can always do more, but then I always feel like, am I let my family down in some way, you know? And they never make me feel that way, but I can't help it. So it's just like always trying to balance that out. And this has been good so far. Like I think it's made me have to think about like how I can move forward with it. And I think it will have to be gradual, but I think I'll start doing more with like a better service for editing. I'll see how like the analytics look at what we're doing now, but just adding the thumbnails. And if I do feel like I'm getting a little bit more traction, it's just like, well, it'll make me want to add more into it, certainly. And he's really like inquisitive about social media content from other people out there.
Yeah.
And that helps like this mentorship thing that we have going. Like he's helping, like he's looking at my content that we might not have talked specifically about it.
Yeah.
And then he might ask me about it, but he's also looking at like Bill Hartman's content and other people. And then we ended up having good questions there. So we just started this like questions with Corey thing that we're trying to do, which is, it's almost like a little podcast that we're doing on Zoom where he's asking me questions and I'm trying to respond in a kind of casual way, but I'm definitely giving it some thought, and we're just going to try to keep doing that. Definitely. And I kind of had to let go, and I'm still assessing, but it's definitely better than I would probably be doing right now for how much I'm getting the content out on a regular basis. He also takes my like MailChimp account, takes some of the videos off my YouTube, and he'll write like a generic email. I'll usually go in and edit it, but like all of the other work to say like this email is going to be in my email list is done. I just have to put the finishing touches on it. And that's really been helpful because I'll go in and do like 1 or 2 videos a week that is on my automatic like email newsletter. And it's just, it's an extension of my content on YouTube, but I try to tie it into one. I did it initially as just like the Movement Professional newsletter, and I'm just adding to more general movement concepts there. And then I have another newsletter that's more for the Longevity Through Movement book, which is from the videos that I did specific for that book. And I'm just trying to like unveil them little by little, but he makes that whole process easier by getting it ready for me. And then I usually have to edit some, and he would expect that, but it's all the other stuff is taken care of, like getting the video uploaded on there. I just basically have to change the narrative a little bit and hit send.
So that's a good, see, you're making me think of all these things. Cause like I could totally have her do that, like put the video in, but like, you know, I definitely have to edit hers because it's like her, like she does a really good job of transferring it, but I need to do like a good edit though.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, especially with the narrative of what the email says. For the most part, I try to I end up making that my own, but just having anything there can be helpful to say, okay, this is where you're going to put your narrative, and then the video's already there though. So like that's the kind of stuff that I've done, like my whole initial newsletter where I did it automated, and that took me a long time to do it by myself. And a lot of it wasn't writing the emails. It was just every email has like a bunch of steps that you have to take. So if you can have somebody take like 3 out of 5 steps out and you only have to do 2, it just makes everything go a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like that just like opened my world.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you'll still have to look at it and things like that. And sometimes I forget that, like I have some automated stuff going on there. So if a new subscriber, they're going to see what's already there. But older subscribers have probably not got content in a while. And then I'm like, oh, I got to like make sure that I'm adding to this. But they're there for me to just check and send. And now I'm in a better rhythm to do that, at least on the weekend, like with a couple emails. And then he's taking new content down and then putting in sort of at the bottom of that stack. So it just makes it easier for me to add that. And if I don't think it's like appropriate for the newsletter, I'll read it and be like, okay, I'm not going to add this one, but I still tell them to just put it there. And I'll either send it or not, but I see it in like a sequence.
Okay.
This was amazing.
This was so much fun.
I'm glad we did face-to-face or virtual face-to-face.
Virtual face-to-face. It was so fun. It was so great to talk to you.
Likewise. I'll talk to you.
Have a good one.